Hey, what's going on, everybody? If you're an NBA fan, you know that the NBA is going to resume play in several weeks from now. And if you're like me, you're excited. You are craving basketball, quality basketball, and it's time to put down the highlight videos and actually watch some actual real life videos. If you're like me, you're kind of wondering like, hey, like how is the NBA going to be, implementing the rules? Like, what are some of the safety and protocol, like health and safety protocols that the players and staff have to follow? And I did a little bit of digging and doing a little bit of research. I was able to find some of the main um, details of that 113-page health and safety protocol that the NBA released to their players and staff. So in this video, I'm going to just break down some of the main ideas from that health and safety protocol. So without further ado, let's start the video. So if you didn't know that the NBA is going to be resuming their play in Disney World in Orlando, Florida, scrimmages will be starting from July 22nd all the way to July 28th. The regular season will be starting on July 30th. Playoffs will be starting on August 17th. The NBA Finals will be starting on September 30th. And the last possible day of the season will be on October 13th. Teams will be split between three venues: the Coronado Springs Resort, the Grand Floridian Resort, and a Spa and Yacht Club Resort. Here, players will have access to 24-hour VIP concierge, a player's lounge. They have access to barbers, manicurists, pedicurists by appointment, team, private team sponsored events, private restaurants, and all those good things. They will also have access to virtual chaplains, pastors, priests, health and wellness sessions, and everything in order to maintain their sanity. Basically, the NBA is going to give it to them because it is a weird event that they're putting on. It's kind of like a World Cup for basketball, but kind of like with regulations and rules to follow. So it's going to be a little interesting for the players. Their emotion, their mental health might be affected. So definitely the NBA is going to provide them as much normalcy as possible. Now, players do have to gain approval to leave the campus. If they do leave the campus on their own accord, then upon their return, they're going to have to endure a 10 to 14 day quarantine. And if they miss any games during that quarantine, they're going to have to be docked pay. And they're going to have to go through enhanced testing. I really don't know what that means, but it could be a lot worse than shoving a Q-tip up your nose. So if a player does test positive, then that person is going to be sent to an isolation housing, which could be another hotel, another facility, or a house. They will be given another test immediately to see if the first test was a false positive, meaning if you get a positive test the first time, that could have been just a false alarm, which does happen, which is unfortunate. So if that person does test negative for during the second test, then they will be remaining in self isolation, but they will be administered a third test. And if that third test comes back negative, then they will be allowed to go back to the team facilities with their teams and staff. But if the player does continue to test positive, then that person is going to continue to remain in isolation housing. Each team is going to be bringing along 37 people inside the NBA campus. So that means 35 people made up of 15 to 17 players and 18 to 20 support staff members, plus a PR person and a content creator. It could be for YouTube or for their team. As teams continue to advance throughout the playoffs, teams can either add or swap members of that party for different people. So in order to provide some structure and organization to the continuation of the NBA season, the NBA did implement 6 phases from now until October 13th, which is the last day of the NBA Finals. Right now, we are in phase 3, which will run from July 1st to the 11th. Players individually are allowed to work out in team facilities. However, they cannot work out in groups, so like no 2-on-2s, no 3-on-3s. So just individual workouts, free throws, dribbling drills, all that stuff. Head coaches are allowed to monitor and watch the practices. But again, no group workouts. Phase 4 is pretty tricky because it is 2 parts. The first part runs from July 7th to the 11th. This is where players and teams actually are allowed to travel to Walt Disney But the first part entails that they should not be tested positive for COVID since the league-wide testing program began, which was about a couple weeks ago. And if they do test positive, then they're going to have to make special arrangements with their team in order for them to arrive in Walt Disney World. The second part of Phase 4 is going to be a little lengthy because it's going to run from July 9th to the 21st, total of 12 days. This is when teams are arriving in Walt Disney World, and as soon as they arrive, they're going to be in self-quarantine. And players and staff are going to have to test negative for 2 tests, which are 24 hours apart, in order to ensure that they don't have the virus. Players are also allowed to wear a smart ring that can help detect if they have COVID-19, which is kind of crazy. You know, it's going to track your temperature, and it's going to track respiratory heart rate and other measurements that will, you know, for some reason will detect COVID if you have it. Now, in order for, you know, the NBA to prevent more risk of, you know, the virus spreading throughout their, you know, NBA system, they are encouraging or discouraging players to not spit in their shoes or clear their noses and wipe the ball with their jerseys and lick their hands or touch their mouths when it's not necessary. This kind of, you know, as people that watch basketball, you know that some players have rituals. They have, you know, methods that they utilize in order to, you know, play at their fullest potential. Some, you know, wipe the sweat off their foreheads when they're shooting free throws. They lick their hands to get a better grip. You know, all that is going to be discouraged, and, you know, it might throw their game off a little bit, but yeah, who knows? It's just for the safety and health protocol of the players and staff, obviously. So once players and staff members are tested negative and, you know, sure that they don't have the COVID virus, they will be allowed to socialize with other people in the same hotels until July 21st, which is the end of Phase 4. Because starting July 22nd is will be Phase 5, which is the start of the NBA scrimmages. Now, the NBA will continue to test players and staff members. Could be as often as daily, you know, every other day, or, you know, once a week. Who knows? It all depends on what the NBA feels is safe and what is appropriate for their situation. So Phase 5 runs from July 22nd to the 29th, and this is where teams can play other teams that are staying in the same hotel as they are. Now, Phase 6 just covers the NBA season, regular season, all the way down to the last day of the NBA Finals, which is on October 13th. Essentially, it's the same as Phase 5, just longer. And as teams continue to advance throughout the playoffs, they're going to start being allowed to bring in guests. Now, I don't really know if, you know, bringing guests is a good idea because, you know, why would you want to bring extra, you know, risk factors to an already restricted bubble? But basically, if players do want to bring in their guests, they're going to have to pay for their own rooms. And obviously, the guests have to, you know, not have the virus coming in. And once they do arrive to Orlando, they're going to have to be quarantined and tested for 4 days straight. And if they do test positive, they're going to have to be self-isolated in team accommodated facilities. So I don't think it's even going to be worth like bringing in guests because, you know, why even bring extra risk factors? All right, so basically, like, my thoughts on, you know, the NBA starting, like, it's good and everything. I do want it, and, you know, I have full faith like this new NBA season is going to be a success. You know, with players contracting the virus, like, as sad as that sounds. But I will be making a video of why I think the NBA is going to succeed and continue and not be canceled. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Now, if you thought this video was informative and answered some of the questions that you were having, you know, in regards to the new NBA season, go ahead and click that subscribe button because I will be having more NBA news and updates. So go ahead and stay tuned, and see you guys again next time.